You're not part of this family anymore. My mom texted. Move on. I didn't reply. I quietly pulled my name from the family estate, cancelled my signature on the refinancing docs, and froze the shared inheritance account. By morning, my brother texted. Everything's locked. What did you do? I smiled. Then my dad's lawyer called. We need to fix this immediately. I turned off my phone. And then my parents. What really impressed me, and not in a good way, was how easily they did it. How fast they turned on me. After everything I had done, all it took was one word, no, and they snapped like I'd been the problem all along. The message came in on a Thursday morning. You're not part of this family anymore. Move on. No build-up, no argument, just those 2 sentences from my mom. Short, final, like I was a service they'd cancelled. I sat there for a long time, just holding the phone. No anger, not even sadness, just this weird calm, like my brain had finally caught up with something my heart already knew. They never saw me as one of them. Not really. I was useful. I was loyal. I was the guy who picked up the messes no one else wanted to touch. But family, that word never really meant much coming from them. They always said it was about loyalty, but loyalty to them meant obedience. When Dad got sick, I was the one who slept on that awful fold-out chair in the hospital room. When Jared crashed his truck, I covered half the repairs. When Mom drained her medical card and started charging her prescriptions to a line of credit under my name, I paid it off and didn't ask for a dime. And every time they needed something, a ride, a loan, a favor, I came through, every time. But last week, they asked me to sign over my share of Grandma's cabin. No payout, no negotiation. Just sign it over so Jared could use it to back his new business loan. I asked what the business was. He said, luxury chicken coops. I said, no. That was the beginning and the end of it. The fallout wasn't a conversation, it was an avalanche. Dad wouldn't speak to me. Jared blocked me. Mom sent me that one final message like she was cutting off a utility bill. They didn't think I'd do anything. They thought I'd sulk for a week, maybe call and apologize. They didn't know I had already seen this coming. I spent that night going through accounts, not out of revenge, but because I knew how they operated. They'd try to use my name on anything still open, so I made sure there wasn't anything left to use. I pulled my name from the refinancing documents, froze the shared inheritance account from Grandma's estate, shut down every joint asset they still had access to through me, even called the credit unions to flag any potential unauthorized activity. I knew how fast Jared could move when he smelled free money. By morning, the text came in. Jared first, everything's locked. What did you do? Then Dad's lawyer, we need to fix this immediately. Call me. I turned off my phone. That night, I called Greg, Grandma's old estate advisor. He always liked me, said I was the only one who showed up at the will reading sober. I asked him one question, had the cabin transfer ever been finalized? He laughed. Nope. It's still in a 3-way split. You, your dad, and your aunt. Why? Because Mom and Dad had lied. They told me it was already signed over, that the only thing missing was my signature to update the title in Jared's name. But the paperwork had never been completed, which meant they couldn't touch that cabin without me. Not legally. Greg told me something else that night, something I didn't expect. There's another document your mom never filed, a financial amendment to the trust. It gives you control of the emergency disbursement fund. Grandma added it herself last year before she passed. I asked for a copy. He emailed it over. And just like that, I realized they hadn't just cut me out, they tried to rob me quietly but efficiently. They counted on me not checking. They counted on me rolling over. What they didn't count on was what I'd do next. By Saturday morning, it all started to crumble. Jared had been calling since 6 a.m., then switched to texting when I didn't pick up. The first few were just questions. Then the accusations started. One of them said, Dad says you froze the account. What did you do? I didn't answer. I was sitting at the kitchen table, coffee half gone, rereading the email from Grandma's estate advisor. It confirmed what I already suspected, that emergency fund they thought was theirs to dip into? It wasn't. Grandma had quietly made me the sole controller of it before she died. My name was on the authority clause, not as a cosigner, not as a backup, as the only one who could move the money. They never knew because they never paid attention to details. They just expected everything to fall in line. So, when I froze the account, I didn't even feel nervous. It was mine to lock. And I did it before they drained it for another one of Jared's doomed side hustles. This time, it was luxury chicken coops. Last time, it was high-end lawn sculptures. Before that, he tried opening a paintball arena behind a strip mall. I figured once the money stopped, they'd either back off or double down. They doubled down. By Sunday, Mom had switched gears. Instead of attacks, she sent this, maybe we all said things we didn't mean. Let's talk. You can't just lock us out like this, Thomas. That money belongs to the family. This isn't fair. Fair. That word again. I remembered her crying on the phone 2 years ago when Dad's back surgery bills got out of hand. I stepped in without hesitation, paid $12,000 out of my savings, didn't ask for repayment, didn't even mention it afterward. I remembered helping Jared get his first truck, co-signing because his credit was wrecked. Then covering his mispayments when he ghosted on them. Fair never came into those conversations. Now, suddenly, I was being unfair. That's when I decided to go further. I drafted a formal message to my dad's lawyer. Short, direct, no emotion. As a legal beneficiary and partial title holder, I'm requesting a full audit of the estate transactions from the last 12 months. There are several disbursements I believe were unauthorized. I knew what that would trigger. Not just an audit, an investigation. If they had moved funds, claimed fake repairs, or shifted titles behind closed doors, it would all come up. And I knew they had. I remembered overhearing a conversation a year ago at Thanksgiving. Jared had joked about using Grandma's safety net to cover a failed vending machine investment. Mom laughed and told him to be more careful. Dad said nothing. I thought they were exaggerating at the time. I was wrong. The lawyer responded within the hour, left a message, then followed it with an email. This is a serious move, Thomas. We can resolve this internally. Please call me. I didn't. I went to the gym instead. That evening, I stopped by a diner and ate alone, quietly, no rush. I watched the staff wipe down the booths, saw families and couples chatting, none of them knowing what kind of storm I was stirring up back home. When I got back to my apartment, there was someone at my door, my aunt. I hadn't seen her in nearly 2 years. She looked tired, not upset, not surprised, just done. She held out her phone. A text from my mom: Thomas is making a move to take the cabin. We need to file a claim before he screws us. Then she said, what's really going on? So I told her everything. I showed her the documents, the freeze order, the audit request, Grandma's signed amendment to the emergency fund, everything. She listened, didn't say much. Then, after a long pause, she said, they'd been trying to push me out, too. Jared wanted me to sign something last month. I said I'd think about it, and your dad stopped returning my calls. She stood up, looked around the room like she needed to say something bigger, then just said, good. Let them drown in their own mess. They've gotten away with this crap too long. I hadn't expected her to pick a side. But now I had someone else who saw it, who confirmed I wasn't crazy, that this wasn't about money. It was about power. And the second I stopped giving them mine, they panicked. What they didn't know was that I was just getting started. I hadn't touched the cabin yet, or the accounts they thought I'd forgotten, or the family secrets that never made it into the official files. They thought I was out, but I had just stepped in. By Monday morning, everything had gone quiet. No angry texts from Jared. No guilt tripping from Mom. No calls from Dad's lawyer. That's how I knew they were meeting behind the scenes, probably in damage control mode, trying to figure out how the hell things flipped so fast. They were always fast to act when they thought they had the upper hand. But silence? That was when they were scared. I didn't wait around. First thing I did was file a formal title dispute on the cabin with the county. It was simple. I submitted a beneficiary conflict notice and froze any attempt to transfer the deed. That move locked everything in place until a legal review was done. It also flagged any backdated documents as suspect, which was perfect because I was about to get one. That afternoon, my aunt forwarded me an email Jared sent her by mistake. It was meant for Dad. It had a fake contract attached, a property transfer agreement supposedly signed by me 3 months ago. My name typed cleanly on the signature line, but I never touched that paper in my life. He'd actually forged my digital signature. Sloppy, too. The date format was inconsistent with everything else on the document. My aunt didn't even ask if it was real, she already knew. I sent it to my lawyer right away. He reviewed it, called me within the hour. Do you want to report this now? He asked. Because this is straight up fraud. I told him, not yet. Not because I was unsure. I just hadn't finished cutting the ropes they were still hanging on to. Because while they were trying to steal the cabin, I was digging into something else. Something they forgot. Something Grandma never mentioned to them, her private account. I remembered it vaguely. One Thanksgiving, she told me she kept a separate emergency fund. Your mom would spend it in a week if she knew, she joked. I thought it was just an old woman being cautious. Turns out she meant it. Greg, the estate advisor, called me that night after digging through some old files. He'd found the account. It had no ties to the trust, not mentioned in the will, totally private, $73,000 sitting in a small credit union under Grandma's name. And the name beneficiary? Me. Only me. I didn't touch it. Just had Greg transfer the account under my name, keep it quiet, and lock it. Let them believe I was scrambling, cut off, desperate. They had no idea. That same evening, just after 10 o'clock, I heard a knock at the door. I checked the peephole. It was my dad. I didn't open. He just stood there staring at the door for a while, then slipped an envelope under it and walked off. Didn't say a word. I didn't read the letter until the next morning. Inside was a note in his handwriting: you're trying to destroy us. You've gone too far. We're still your family, but this ends now. You're out. Stapled to it was a draft petition from their attorney, an official move to challenge my place as a beneficiary. They were planning to accuse me of financial manipulation and emotional instability. They were trying to erase me on paper. I took a breath, went to my desk, and opened the envelope I had been holding on to for 2 years, a signed, notarized power of attorney. Grandma had given it to me 6 months before she passed. It had been sitting in my drawer untouched because I never wanted to use it. I'd hoped I'd never have to. I scanned it, attached it to an email, and sent it to my lawyer. Subject line: they want to fight, give them one. Because if they wanted to come out, if they wanted to go legal, go personal, go dirty, then I'd show them how cleanly I could dismantle them. This was no longer about the cabin. It was about who they thought I was. And they were about to find out how wrong they'd been. Tuesday morning started with a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring twice, then picked up. Hi, is this Thomas? This is Martha Jacobs from First View Title Services. We're processing a title transfer for the North Ridge cabin, and your signature appears on the release document, but something looks off. Did you submit this? I told her no. She went quiet. Then she said she'd been told to fast-track it by someone named Jared. That was all I needed to hear. Reject it, I said. And keep a record. That document is fraudulent, she said she would. I hung up and immediately filed a formal fraud complaint with the county registrar's office. Jared had forged my signature again, this time on an actual legal filing. He wasn't just testing boundaries anymore, he was trying to erase me outright. By noon, Jared had texted me, "You're playing with fire. Don't do anything you can't walk back from." That was it. No apology, no explanation, just another threat dressed like advice. They still didn't get it. They still thought this was about a fight. But for me, the fight had already ended. I was pulling things apart now, methodically, precisely, one cut at a time. I logged into the shared family line of credit account next, the one I hadn't looked at in nearly 2 years. I'd left it open because Dad once begged me to keep it tied to my name for emergencies only. It took me about 6 clicks to find out how that went. Over $22,000 in charges, all under my name, none of them mine. There were furniture orders, electronics, a week at a resort in Tulum listed as business expenses, spa days. They were sloppy about it, too. No attempts to disguise the charges. They didn't even try to hide it because they really believed they'd never get caught. I flagged every charge, filed an affidavit of identity theft, and submitted it to the bank. Within hours, the account was frozen, and their access was gone. And I wasn't done. I called HR at my company. I didn't tell them the family drama, just asked about protocols for personal identity misuse because I was preparing to document everything and I didn't want any overlap between my work files and what I was now compiling for legal protection. Turns out someone had already tried to involve them. An hour later, my manager called me into his office. He looked uncomfortable. He told me someone from my dad's law office had called, claiming I was misusing company resources, that I was unstable, and that they should reconsider my position before I brought them into something ugly. They tried to get me fired. They weren't just lying, they were escalating fast and dirty. So, I handed over the folder I'd been building, printouts, screenshots, a signed power of attorney from my grandmother, copies of forged documents, bank statements, voicemails. I laid it all out calmly. My manager read through it, nodded, and said, "If they contact us again, we'll forward everything to legal. You're covered." I walked out of that meeting knowing one thing for sure, I had no family left. Not in the traditional sense, but I had leverage. And now I had the receipts. That night, after the dust settled, I listened to one of the voicemails I had been avoiding. It was from Mom. Her voice was shaking, but not from sadness. "You've gone too far, Thomas. You think this makes you strong? You think this is justice? All you're doing is burning the only people who ever cared about you. You're not punishing us. You're isolating yourself." There it was. The classic flip from betrayal to victimhood, as if I was the one destroying the family. I sat there for a while after that. Didn't feel sad. Didn't feel angry. Just incredibly clear. So, I typed out one text. Short, direct. I sent it to all 3 of them, Mom, Dad, and Jared. Let's see what happens without me. Because now they'd seen what I could take away. What they hadn't seen yet was what I still had left. The cabin wasn't even the biggest piece. There were still trust allocations, deferred assets, a life insurance clause they never read closely. They wanted war. They wanted me out. So, I gave them exactly what they asked for. And the consequences hadn't even started. By Thursday morning, I got the first call from a number I hadn't seen in years, Uncle Ray. He was my dad's older brother, the one who used to show up at family events and make everyone uncomfortable because he actually asked questions. He'd been frozen out years ago after calling out some shady stuff Dad did with their father's estate. He didn't waste time. Just said, "I heard what's happening." Good. They've had it coming. That call told me 2 things. 1, the news was spreading. And 2, there were more people quietly rooting for me than I thought. I told him a bit, not everything. He listened, then asked if I remembered the second property Grandma owned. I paused. The lake lot. I hadn't thought about that place in years. He told me something no one else ever had. It was never transferred to the trust. It had been in a separate holding company Grandma created years ago. Apparently, she mentioned it to him once over coffee and told him, That one's for the one who stays decent. I hadn't seen any paperwork on it, but Ray had. He'd kept a copy. He emailed it to me that night. It was still active, still in her name. And the successor beneficiary listed me. Just me. So, while my parents and Jared were fighting tooth and nail to get a cabin, I quietly became the legal heir to a piece of lakefront property they didn't even know existed, valued at more than double what the cabin was worth. I didn't say a word to them. Not yet. Instead, I sent a notice through my lawyer to Dad's attorney, informing them that due to multiple incidents of forgery, fraudulent use of credit, and misuse of estate assets, we were now entering formal litigation. If they wanted to play legal games, then it would be real now. And then I cut the final string, the shared family phone plan. I had been the primary account holder for years. Out of convenience, they never paid into it. I paid every bill. 3 lines, all in my name. I canceled the entire account with one call. By noon, Jared texted me, "Phone's dead." What the hell? Then, for the first time, a message from my dad that didn't sound like it was written through gritted teeth: "We need to talk. Not lawyers. Just us, please." I didn't respond. Later that night, my mom sent one, "2, I don't know what to say anymore. I never wanted this. Can we please talk before this goes even further?" Now they wanted to talk after the fraud, the threats, the fake documents, the smear campaign at my job, after trying to erase me. Now they wanted a conversation. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I walked to the file cabinet and pulled out a letter I'd written to myself a year ago, back when I first started sensing the divide growing. It said, "If they ever make you choose between peace and dignity, choose dignity. Peace without it isn't peace." I reread it, sat back, and realized something. This was never about the cabin. It was about control, about power, about who gets to rewrite history, and who's just expected to stay quiet. They thought I was angry because they cut me out. They didn't realize I'd already left a long time ago. I was just finally removing the parts of me they'd been using to keep themselves afloat. And now they were drowning in their own choices. By Friday, the tone of everything changed. No more threats, no more lies, just silence followed by a slow trickle of apologies that weren't really apologies. Jared sent the first one. "I messed up. I got carried away. I just wanted to build something, man." He left out the part where he tried to forge my signature. The part where he nearly got me fired. But still, it was a shift. Then Mom called. I let it go to voicemail. "Thomas, your father's been sick. He's been hiding it. I think this has all been too much. Maybe we handled things badly. Can we talk?" She didn't say sorry, but that was the closest she'd ever come. Later that afternoon, I got a formal email from Dad's lawyer. They were withdrawing the petition to remove me from the estate. No apology, no explanation, just a straight withdrawal. They knew they'd lost, but I wasn't angry anymore. That had passed. What I felt now was clarity. It was never about getting revenge. Not really. It was about finally being honest with them, with myself, about what they were and what they weren't. But they still wanted peace. And after everything, a part of me did too. I wasn't interested in dragging it through the courts forever. I had nothing left to prove. So I agreed to meet. One time, one condition: my aunt would be there. My lawyer would be copied on every message. Everything in writing. We met at a quiet little office, one of those neutral third-party spaces where nobody can shout or posture. Just sit, listen, sign. They looked different when they walked in. Smaller, somehow, like people who finally realized they couldn't outrun consequences anymore. My dad spoke first. "I know I crossed the line. We all did. I don't know how we come back from it, but I'd rather try than keep losing more. Then, Mom, we were scared. Not of you, just of what it meant when you said no. We handled it wrong. I see that now." Jared didn't say much. Just nodded. Avoided eye contact. I waited a long time before speaking. "I'm not going to pretend nothing happened. I'm not coming back to the way things were, but I'll move forward with you under my terms." They all nodded. No one objected, so I laid them out. My portion of the trust stays untouched. No loans, no requests. The cabin remains jointly owned, but I control any decisions involving refinancing or sale. The lakefront property is mine. Period. All financial ties, past and present, are cut. No more shared accounts, no more co-signing, no favors. If they ever go behind my back again, even once, I walk permanently. I watch them sit with it. No yelling, no arguments, just quiet acceptance. They agreed. We signed a document confirming it all. Legally binding. Everyone walked out different that day. I won't pretend things are perfect now. We're not having Sunday dinners. We're not trading birthday gifts. But there's distance. There's quiet. There's respect. The real kind. The kind that only shows up after you've been burned and chose not to burn back. They didn't just lose their grip on me. They lost their version of me. The one who would do anything to be accepted, even at the cost of his own dignity. That version's gone. What's left is me. And I'm fine with that.